Hello, my name is Karen Williams, and I am Drake University's Education Abroad Advisor. Today we're going to be talking about how to get a passport. So what's on our agenda? So talking really a lot about process. We're going to think through the timeline of when you should be ordering or renewing your passport, what the cost can be for ordering the passport, application materials that are needed, as well as where you can apply. So the passport timeline. So at the time of this recording, it's March of 2023. And I say that because processing times can vary depending on the time of year or just year to year. Currently, regular processing for a passport is taking 8 to 11 weeks. So that's if you order the standard version of the passport. It will take up to 11 weeks to receive it in the mail. There's also the option, though, to do expedited processing for an additional $60. And if you pay the additional $60 for expedited processing, you should expect to receive your passport in 5 to 7 weeks. So again, you should expect it maybe taking up to 7 weeks to get your passport in the mail. Processing time begins upon receipt of the application and supporting materials from the passport agency or center. So it's not when you put it in the mail, it's when they actually receive the passport materials. So just keeping that in mind, that especially if you're under a time crunch, that you need to start counting from when they actually receive the materials, not from when you mail it. And then when will you need the passport? So one thing that I see frequently in this position is that a lot of students think they don't need the passport until the day they depart for their program. That is not accurate. We need the passport information earlier than your departure date. So having, essentially, I guess, not having a passport can cause a number of issues. So you may need your passport number when you're booking your flight. You may need it to make either arrangements with housing or accommodations. Or also, if you're enrolling in a university abroad, oftentimes the university needs your identification number, in this case, your passport number, in order to enroll you. So really, realistically, the passport's really needed more like 3 months before your departure date at a minimum, so that we can be getting your flights booked if you're doing a Drake program, or if you're doing a program where you're enrolling at a university abroad, they will need that information in order to start issuing you paperwork showing that you're enrolled. Especially if you're doing a semester program, you will need that paperwork in order to apply for your visa. So please do not wait to order your passport. If you're doing a semester program, you really probably need your passport more like 6 months in advance, versus if you're doing a short-term program, something more like 3 months in advance is going to be usually an okay timeline. All right, passport cost. So the cost varies a little bit depending on the type of passport that you're getting. So for most of our programs, students would want to apply for a passport book, and that's a passport that has paper pages inside that you can receive a stamp on. So that is typically what students should be ordering for most of our international programs. And it might vary, though, whether you're applying for essentially like a first-time passport or if you're renewing your passport. So that there's a little bit of a cost differentiation depending on if you're renewing or ordering a first-time passport. You can see here, though, on the screen, those kind of two differentiations. That on the top, there is for first-time adult passport book. If you're receiving that category, you'll have the $130 application fee, and you will additionally have a $35 execution fee. If you're renewing your passport, you will just have the $130 application fee and not also the execution fee. You might also notice here that there are actually 2 different forms that you would use to complete, depending on if you are applying for a first-time passport or if you're renewing a passport. So a little bit more about that. With your passport application, there are some forms that you need to submit as part of the application. And so again, when you're completing your application form, you need to consider whether you're applying for a first-time passport or if you're renewing a passport. If you're applying for a first-time passport, you'll use a form called the DS-11, and if you're renewing your passport, you'll use a form called the DS-82. These forms are available for free on travel.state.gov, so you can essentially just download these forms. They do have two different versions, though. They actually have a form filler where you can enter the information in online and then essentially, print it or download it with the information already entered in. Or they also have a printable PDF that you can download as well. How to apply? So if you are a first-time passport, if you're in that category, you must apply in person. But if you're renewing your passport, you can actually apply via mail or online. So there are some additional options that you have that give you a little more flexibility if you're renewing. One thing to note, though, is that you'll be required to apply for a first-time passport applicant in a few different cases. So keep in mind that if you no longer have your first passport, which could be, or I guess I should say your last passport, you would want to make sure that if you've lost it, if it was stolen, if it got destroyed, if you no longer physically have that passport in hand, you will need to reapply as a first-time passport holder. Additionally, if you were under the age of 16 when you received your last passport, you will also again need to apply as a first-time passport holder. And then a few other cases that potentially you might fall into if your last passport was issued more than 15 years ago, or if your name has changed. In either of those cases, you would again also need to apply as a first-time passport holder. A few other things about the passport application. You do also need to submit a passport photo. The passport photo is 2 by 2 inches. It needs to be taken in the last 6 months. It needs to be a clear image with no filters, and it really can't be a selfie. Ideally, somebody else needs to take the photo of you. They request that you don't wear eyeglasses for your photo, and that you also have a white or an off-white background with no shadows. So here I've taken a screenshot from the travel.state.gov website. They give some tips on how that passport photo should look. Sometimes as well, you can have this passport photo taken nearby. So like if I think there's either a Walgreens or a CVS kind of near campus. In the past, they've taken passport photos for students. Additionally, the nearest passport agency, kind of processing facility, it's a United States Postal Service office on the corner of University Avenue and 2nd Avenue. They also have taken passport photos for students in the past. In addition to your application form and passport photo, you do also need to bring proof of identification. This can be a few different things. So students can bring in a previous U.S. passport, whether it's valid or expired. They can bring an in-state driver's license. So if you're ordering your passport in the state of Iowa, you would need to have an Iowa driver's license. You can also bring a certificate of naturalization, a certificate of citizenship, a government employee ID, a U.S. military ID, or a current foreign passport if it is still valid. One thing to note, again, is that they would like you to bring your physical ID in so that they can look at it at the time of processing, but that they also would like you to bring one photocopy of that ID as well. And then also you need to bring proof of citizenship. So there are a few different ways that you can show proof of citizenship. You can bring in a U.S. birth certificate. You can bring in a valid U.S. passport. And again, that can be, actually I should say, it can either be like current or it can actually be recently expired. You can also bring in a consular report of birth abroad or a certificate of naturalization or citizenship through one or both parents being either naturalized or U.S. citizens. All right, lastly, where to apply. So again, if you are renewing, you can actually apply through the mail or online. So that's really convenient if you're able to renew. But if you're applying as a first-time passport holder, you'll need to find an acceptance facility. There's a website on the travel.state.gov website. We can see the exact website here, but it's a little bit unusual. So if you want to go to travel.state.gov, you can go there and there's a link to finding an acceptance facility. Once you're on that page, you enter your zip code and it will give you a list of the nearest facilities to that zip code. And I'll just say generally that for Drake University, if you're wanting to apply, here, the nearest passport processing facility is, again, the USPS office on the corner of University Avenue and 2nd Avenue. So it's only, I think, about 2 miles from campus, so it's pretty close, and there are buses that can take students down there as well. Lastly, after your passport is ordered, you will actually receive a tracking number, so you can kind of keep an eye on where it's at in the process when it's been accepted into the facilities and is now being processed, and when they mail it back to you, they'll update your passport status, which is wonderful. If you have any questions about ordering a passport or renewing a passport, please let us know. We're here to help. You can contact us at studyabroad@drake.edu. All right, thank you. Have a good day.